Let's Talk with Paula show. It's a place where we talk about many, many topics, and we have guests on here too that dance, sing, write poetry, and do other things as well. So with the snow being forecast to let us know that God is in control, we had days that said that there was going to be snow, 7 inches, and then it said that it was going to have snow the next week, and it said it was going to have some, then it had no snow, and so this is why we're just back here today, is because we saw that the weather was going to be beautiful outside, which it was. Wouldn't y'all say so?
Yes, I would.
And so I'm glad that we were able to come on a beautiful day, and we're here on a Wednesday night versus a Thursday night too. So that makes it kind of a little different. Okay. So I was told that the BCMC TV website is live, and it will show it at 8 o'clock. So I don't know how that's live, because we're in here at 6:30. But anyway, they're still on YouTube, and they're on the TV channel. So they're still on channel 11 if you have Verizon, the 77 on Comcast, and they're still on YouTube. But I was told to say that they were actually on the BCMC TV website as well. So any show that you missed on any one of those, that you could go to BCMC TV website as well. So I just want to say that my heart goes out to Roberta Flack, who passed away yesterday. Actually, without telling how old I am, they told you that, you know, she went to Howard, where she was from, she went to Howard, and she also taught at a school in the District of Columbia. Well, that was a brand new school in the District of Columbia, and it was called Ribaud Junior High School. And she was a music teacher there. And in the 9th grade, she was my music teacher, and I was so blessed to have her as a music teacher. But she's only stayed there that 1 year, and then she was blossomed to someplace else. But that was when the school opened up brand new, Ribaud Junior High School in Washington, D.C. She taught there as their music teacher, and I was fortunate enough to be in her class. Now, as I got older, sometimes I would go to her concerts, and then because I was always so proud of her, and then sometimes I would go to Mr. Henry's. That was old enough when I could get in there. Okay. Mr. Henry's. I couldn't get.
So what was Mr. Henry's?
Mr. Henry's was like a bar. You know, okay. Like you could sit down and eat, but it's like and she sang there forever. Okay. But it was like a one of those nice, cozy little places where you could sit down at the table and, you know, with your friends and sit down and talk and eat and drink.
So when I moved to this area 20 some odd years ago, I think it was Blues Alley was sort of like the place that everybody would like to go, you know, for like the performances, food, and so Mr. Henry's is sort of like that.
Yes, they would compete. Actually, they were in a competition with each other.
Gotcha.
Okay, because if the person that you wanted to see wasn't at Blues Alley, they was at Mr. Henry's.
Okay.
And I think Mr. Henry's was still hanging around. I don't think Blues Alley is around anymore. I'm not sure.
I'm not certain either.
I don't hang in bars. Okay, so I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, I got a little one at home, so
I don't
have time.
Oh, well, I know that's right. But I don't have anybody at home, but I don't hang in bars. The only reason why I would go down there to see her every now and then, because she was my school teacher, and I was just impressed. And she was this big star. I mean, she was bigger than life to me. You know what I mean? That was support that I could still continue to give her.
Was one of her background singers. That's how big she was. How big a star she was.
Yeah, so. And she sang. She did quite a few duets with quite a few different people.
Yeah.
And that made the top 10.
Yeah.
You know, she made #1 on the circuit. But she was a beautiful person. She had a beautiful personality. She was larger than life, as you hear people say. And so I was just, like I said, I didn't hang in bars, but I would go down just to support her, just like I say, you know, you remember me? You know, that kind of thing. Because, like I said, it was many years after that, you know, that I was able to go see her, you know. But my condolences go out to her family, and to well wishes to letting her music and her legacy live on forever, because she has a legacy that no other has. And so please continue to buy her music. And if you've never heard of, you've missed out. So I would recommend, I don't got any money, any stock in it, okay, but I would invite you to put her in your music repertoire. okay, if you've never heard her before. So I wanted to say that at the beginning of the show, because I forgot to say it on the other 2 shows, and it was in my heart last night to make sure that I did give out condolences today.
I concur with you. Beautiful voice. Never met her in person, but from just watching her on TV, you just always thought that, she just had a great, beautiful personality, very calming sort of influence and whatnot. And like I said, Luther Vandross, who was like one of the biggest stars that I ever saw, was her background singer. So that just shows you just how big she was in the 70s and in the early 80s, when she was at like really her height,
Yeah, and she's one of those people that you would never, if you ever met her, you would never forget her, And if you ever heard her music, you wouldn't ever forget that as well, And so, I'm just sorry that, we have somebody with such an audience that she had, from all walks of life, that people would listen to her or go to her concerts. It didn't matter how old you were either, because, depending on who the background person was, right? That, people would, attend her stars. And you could always see her locally, if you wanted to, just to hear what she sounded like when she was down there. And I think she was still singing at Mr. Henry's until not a few years ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So she's been here for a long time. Yeah. You ever gone to see her? Did you ever gone to see her down there? Yeah. Yeah.
Been to Mr. Henry's a few times.
Oh, yeah. So
down on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, down on Capitol Hill. Yeah. It is really, really, it's a nice place to go to.
Very nice place.
It's still a nice place to go to. Yep. So I don't want to say it's not. You can still go down to Mr. Henry's. I don't have any stock in Mr. Henry's. I don't get any finances. I haven't even been there for years, but I'm just saying that, if you just want to go someplace and sit down and be quiet and have, time to talk with your family and your friends and stuff, and want to take them someplace, that's one place. And
they have actually, Paula, they have a great jazz night. Jazz singers tomorrow night, actually.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because they have a lot of stars that go down there.
A lot of stars. A lot of local stars, actually, as well.
They sure do. So now I know he told you jazz night tomorrow night, guys. Today is Wednesday, so when you see this, if you on Thursday, it's probably jazz night. But you can look them up, and they can tell you who's there at their venue.
Probably MrHenrys.com. I would think that's probably an appropriate website, right?
I would think so. Oh, you put it on the restaurants,
Could be.
in D.C. That he's gonna come up. Okay, so just however you Google it, or ask Siri or whoever you call that person,
right? Or Amazon or whoever, right?
Where's Mr. Henry's in D.C.? It's in D.C. Okay, guys, District of Columbia. So, guys, I was telling the whole world. I'm not gonna say the whole world because these guys are not depressed, but I look at some of these people that I watch talking on the shows, right, just so I could hear what they got to say. Some of them got funny stuff to say, some of them don't. Okay, but
one thing we hadn't talked about was something that I saw in the news, and I have been doing some reading on. This year, Maryland is going to have a huge budget shortfall.
Have a who?
A budget shortfall. The state of Maryland is having a huge budget shortfall.
I read it.
And I think Maryland has a constitutional amendment that says the budget has to be balanced. And we're talking about a couple $2 billion. So there are, the legislature is in session now. And there's a distinct possibility that either taxes are going to have to be raised or services are going to have to be cut. I mean, I'm talking about significant cuts to services, because of this huge budget shortfall with the state of Maryland. So, I would strongly encourage you, the listeners out there, to get in contact with your state delegates and your state senators, not the federal ones, but the state ones, because these type services have a direct impact upon your lives. I mean, we're not talking about the federal government, we're talking about the state government. So they fund schools, they're the ones who put up the traffic lights and fix the potholes you know, and things of that nature. Those are just things that I can just think of off the top of my head.
And
But there's so many things that you know, that the money trickles down from the state to the county and to the cities. So it's going to have a huge impact if they have to cut services right here in Bowie. And you know, and there's a distinct possibility that, you know, our taxes are going to be increased, you know, and I don't know if that's, I'm quite certain it's going to be income taxes, but it may be property taxes as well. And you know, for seniors and things of that nature, that could have a significant impact on your bottom line. Right. If the taxes are increased, or you know, if your property taxes go up, or you know, I mean, so I you know, we in the previous shows we've been talking about the federal government, but I really think, you know, that's something that we should really be paying close attention to. I'm paying attention to it because I have a daughter that's 3, and you know, she'll be getting ready to go to school in the next 2-3 years. If you know, if the school budgets are cut, that's going to have a direct impact upon the quality of the education that she's going to get, because the impact may not be felt this year, but 2-3 years down the line, definitely. So.
Right.
Well, they get a double whammy because some of those lunch programs are dealt out by the federal government.
That's correct.
And some of those programs that they have where the children are able to go to school before they go to kindergarten. I forgot what you call that program, but anyway, Head Start. That's a federal program, and they talk about cutting that out. So yeah, it impacts your daughter now. You know, if those go through, and I was glad to see that the Redskins was out there feeding some of those kids. You know, because some of that stuff has already hit their homes with their families not getting. You know, income, or they're waiting on income, or they're waiting to see what's happening in a waiting game. So they went out yesterday, and I don't have any money tied into the Commanders, okay? I'm just saying I saw it on the news yesterday that they were at some place and they were feeding families, in which I think that some of us might have to, in your churches, like you said earlier, that we might have to get involved and try to do some of these things too in our neighborhoods, because our neighbors, if you're not working in the federal government, or we're not working in the federal government, even if you retired from the federal government, you're affected. Think about that one, because those monies are being affected too, aren't they, Donald? No, okay, when they said Medicare and Social Security wasn't going to be affected, and then I saw something that, I'm not going to quote it because it might have been wrong. Okay, but I know that they asked him.
Well, I know that there were rumors going around that in order for you know, the Congress to come up with the cuts that they're projected that they need to, the things that they need to cut, Medicaid, not Medicare.
Okay.
But Medicaid may be one of the things that may see significant cuts. But you know, that can have an impact upon, you know, children and people who aren't eligible for Medicare, because, you know, like in the state of Maryland, you know, children who don't have the health insurance, I believe, are covered under Medicaid and whatnot. So, I mean, with the state government possibly cutting services, and the federal government, there's a rumor that there may be cuts in Medicaid, but I think, you know, there's going to be a big fight over that. I don't know that Medicaid is necessarily going to be cut. That could have a severe impact on, you know, low and moderately income, you know, low to moderate income families, you know. So that there's a real possibility, because the cuts are going to come from both sides. So Maryland is like one of the few places that really puts a lot of money into their school system, and through Medicaid they provide like health care and whatnot.
And food.
Yes, you're correct.
And food too.
And
right.
food.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, which just makes it so bad, is why I'm glad you did that for me. Okay, because I didn't want to say something wrong.
Okay.
Anyway, but they just had everybody do this Advantage plan. Okay, for Medicare and Medicaid. Okay. So if that were to happen, which helps pay by food and do all these other things that they say that do dental care. I don't do Advantage because I was advised not to do it, because the plan that I have, if I leave it, I can't go back. So I don't do Advantage. But that's one of my fears was, that something was going to happen with that plan at some point in time. They were going to cut out, just like they've been trying to cut out welfare. You understand what I'm saying? Well, this is another form, so far as I'm concerned, it's just got a different name. You know, you got people in it, but you got your senior citizens that are involved. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I don't, this is my opinion. No one's going to cut Medicare.
No, but I'm talking about the Medicaid, the one that have Medicare and Medicaid. Some of those Advantage plans have Medicare and Medicaid, okay? They also give them money, extra money to buy groceries. They give them money so they can get eye care, dental care, under this Advantage program. They have all these things under this one umbrella, okay?
Gotcha.
And that's why I was told not to be bothered with it. Stay where you are. You know, do what you have to do with Medicare and Social Security, okay? Because you never know when any one of these organizations are going to drop out of the plan because they're not getting the people or the funding that they need. So Medicaid is under that program, under those programs. And it's also, they get money, you know, to buy groceries with, okay? So I'm just saying, I don't know what happens. I'm not asking you to answer it. I'm just saying, I don't know, but if I were you, I would check with those organizations that you have your Advantage plan with for the senior citizens, okay? Your Medicare Advantage plan. Find out, does the Medicaid gets affected? And if you're the one for your money for the food, because I get like $133 a month.
Oh, really?
Okay.
I didn't know that.
If those things are going to be affected by this, it's better for you to find out now than you to find out later, and you ain't got a lot of stuff coming back in your check, and now you can't buy food. Now you can't, you know, you go to the doctor, but you're gonna have a fee that you're gonna have to pay whatever Medicare does not pay. Okay. So I'm telling you to check with whomever that is that you're under for your Medicare Advantage program to find out, do these rules with Medicaid affect them in any kind of way? I strongly suggest that you do that, because like you said, that the Medicaid program, I did hear that, but I'm glad that you said it, because who can say it better than you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's going to be cut, but you know, from what I've read, you know, that's one of the major areas that the current Congress is looking at. They're looking at doing some cuts to Medicaid. I don't know that there will be the votes to do it, but you know, that is like one of those areas they're looking to cut.
And I don't understand this, and I know none of y'all can answer this, because I can't either, because I just saw this on the news yesterday. And my sister lives in Florida. I got another sister that lives in Florida. And their governor, that just got a new governor, right? He was appointed.
No, the governor is still the same governor in Florida.
What's his name?
I don't know.
Yeah, because I think that they just got a new governor.
No, it's the same.
It's the same guy.
It's the same guy, because he was. I can't just think of his name right now, but
I can't either.
He's a Republican.
Yes.
And
so was the other guy.
Yeah, but I still think they still have the same governor.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So they have the same governor.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't care. Fine. They have the same governor, but the governor is thinking about making a Doge position.
Well, he's on a short list to run for president in 4 years. So I mean, maybe I'm just guessing. You know that the richest man in the world is Elon Musk, and he funds campaigns. He helped fund the president's campaign. So you bring in his people, and they start looking for waste and things of that nature. You get on his good side, and that gives you a leg up against in the Republican primary that's going to come up, because President Trump isn't eligible to run again.
Right. Well, he said he was going to appoint one. I think that he was talking about Elon. I think that it sounded like he was going to appoint one for himself for Florida.
Yeah, but they're probably going to use the same blueprint.
Right.
So I mean, that's when I hear that, that's sort of like what I'm thinking.
Right.
From a political perspective. I mean, that's what he wants to do.
Okay.
So a lot of people want to cut, or they want to find waste in government and get rid of it. but you know, they also use that to get rid of programs that they don't
want,
like,
right,
and whatnot.
and that's the biggest thing. They get
Yeah.
rid of programs that they don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's
all
so
in the
sad.
name of government efficiency.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's really sad because those programs are working.
Yeah.
And there's so many stories that are coming out about what's right, what's wrong, what happened, who did it, you know, who shot the dog. You're confused because you don't know who to believe. You know, not unless you worked in one of those departments. And those people that have come forward that worked in those departments said those are lies, okay, because that's not true. Okay, and then you get these mixed conversations that's going on, what you have to do and you don't have to do, and you don't know who to believe because it's not really come from the president, it's come from the dose, and then the president backs the dose. You don't know what the hell is going on, okay? Yeah. And that's why you really got to, what did you tell them to call who?
Well, well, number one, you have your congressmen, and you have your senators. I mean, people who you voted for, and they're there to serve their constituency. So, I mean, if you're having issues, I mean, that would be the first place that I would start looking. Also, if you're a member of a union, you have union representatives, and then you have your chain of command at work. You know, you need to take advantage and you need to talk to your chain of command at work. Talk to your supervisor and their supervisor to get clarity in terms of what you should be doing and what you should not be doing.
Well, that's funny to say. I mean, because you are. But some of those agencies did try to do that. And some of those agencies told them, no, don't do this. Yeah. And then the next 2 hours on the news, they said, just do what you got to do. You know, it just depends on what agency it was.
Well, I think because, you know, there are people who are doing very sensitive type things, and you're sending out on an email server like what you're doing, and you know, those things may not need to be on, need to be out there. Like if you're law enforcement, you know, or let's say if you are working at NIH and you're working on some very sensitive project or
like
something
bird flu,
or if you're working up for the nuclear regulatory agency and whatnot. So I think, or if you're working at the State Department, you know, or if you're working for the FBI, you know,
the CIA.
I mean, you don't need to tell, you know, Doge what project, you know, that you're working on at the FBI.
IRS,
so I think that's the reason why the FBI director was like, don't do this.
Right.
You know, I mean, I think if you want to do something like that, there's a more efficient way of doing it. I mean, you got a chain of command. It's just like in the military, you got a chain of command. So you have the, you know, the president can go to the FBI director, or he can go to the Department of State. You know, the cabinet, you know, Marco Rubio, who is the Secretary of State, and says, I want you to, you know, reach out to your people and find out what they're doing and report back to me. Well, and that way you can filter out like sensitive stuff that doesn't need to be part of
the email system. Yeah. Which we already know from the election that they said that the Japanese had infiltrated the election.
The
Chinese, I'm sorry. Right. The Chinese had, thank you for keeping me on point. My sugar's down. Please forgive me today. The Chinese had infiltrated the election system. Okay, so we know that they have sensitive information, okay, about what's going on with all our technology. So it is very dangerous for us to go into IRS and get everybody's business and to go into all these other agencies and CIA, FBI, you know, it doesn't matter. It's just, and then you're sending these young kids, they say, that know nothing about what they're doing inside asking for information that, you know, and they fired these people. So it's a very delicate situation, which is putting our country at very, very high risk. And then to mess with the military, you understand what I'm saying? I think that was really, 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 I don't know.
Oh, you're talking about the
firing of the people in charge of the military at the Pentagon. I think that was really crazy. And these airplanes is something wrong that all of a sudden.
And the weird thing about the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he was originally appointed to the Joint Chiefs of Staff by President Trump during his first administration. He was chosen to head the Air Force by President Trump, and then when President Biden came in, President Biden chose him to be you know, the chief of staff, you know, the head person for the whole military. So, I mean, this person was probably one of the most apolitical people out there. He was appointed by President Trump to be the head of the Air Force, and then he was appointed by President Biden to be the, you know, the head, you know, the chief of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So that was a weird dynamic. I mean, that was weird for me. It's not weird that, you know, military brass are apolitical and, you know, could be appointed by both parties. But the firing was it was expected, but you know, you know. But
it was devastating by a lot of military people that have reached out to me.
Okay.
That happened. I mean, not just one or two people. I'm just saying, a lot of military people have reached out to me and said, "Wow, what do you think about this? You know, your father served. You know, your uncle served. Your cousin served. You know, what do you think about this? Some of them, you know, female and male, have served. And what do you think about this? You know?" And I just say, feel the same way you do. You know what I mean? Because a lot of things that are being done, I think is dangerous to the country.
Well, elections have consequences.
Well,
and sometimes, you know, we don't have to.
One thing about President Trump, anything he said he's going to do, he's going to do it, okay? And he told everyone, so don't get mad, that he was going to get anybody that did him wrong. And that was from the first election, okay? He was going to get everybody. So folks, you're part of everybody, okay? If you think about it, because you didn't back him for that first election. So the United States of a government, the United States is part of everybody, and that's what I see. He's getting back at, he always does what he says he's going to do. He said he's going to get everybody that was against him. If you wasn't for him, you was against him. So if you didn't make it possible for him to win that first election, the United States of America was against him. Well, he does everything he says. That's all I can say. Just put that on your mind. That's of them things. With that little boy Arsenio Hahn, who somebody used to say and you know, when they used to come on, they didn't say nothing much, but they just say yeah. So I just want to say, just think about that. Pray for the world, the country. Pray for our president, and hope that he has a change of heart. And goodbye.
Good night.
Good night.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?